How many innocents have you killed? How many more have to die?
The killing will never stop.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. There has been quite a big chunk of news here. Another part of the story of Blizzard staff basically leaving the fold, going on to do new things, and I think this is a particularly, let's just say a particularly interesting one, and there's a general update that I've got for you guys on all of that. Now, you probably notice things look a little bit different. You might also notice, say hello, Matt.
Hello, everyone.
There's a new guy. Just that, of course, if you've been watching most of the content we've put out recently, you'll already know Matt. We're going to explain everything about this format, but of course, here today, it is all about the news. We're going to get into this real juicy number. This is going to be very fun. Soon there'll be lots of great stuff going on here, and it's going to allow us to put a lot of time into some very cool long-term projects, which I think you guys will love. So
Absolutely.
with that said then, I will go over the story because I'm already up to date with this one, and a few of the people involved. So obviously we know that things are not great at Blizzard. They are taking far too much time to get their games out. Internal morale is not particularly good in some of their teams, even the teams that are more successful, like say the World of Warcraft development team. I've heard from multiple sources, multiple accounts, there's a bunch of public stuff, that team morale is pretty damn low. Now, the tracking of people leaving the WoW team has been interesting over the last while. There's been quite a few, on a weekly basis, and often it is decently senior-seeming people. What we've got today, though, is confirmation of what David Kim is doing. So where do we last leave off with David?
Last we heard a decent while ago was that he left Blizzard and was moved over to Tencent.
Yes.
Which we assumed at the time was Lightspeed LA, because that's what we knew them to be actually working on in the West.
Yeah, and then Lightspeed. Lightspeed is a new AAA studio, and I guess it's that weird thing of now Tencent have decided they're going to be doing Western AAA games. So they are getting Western AAA developers and just sprinkling them about. Because there's Lightspeed LA, there's this studio, and I think there's another one as well. I think there was some Halo, Halo guy was another studio, that's another sort of case of something like this. Yeah. So
it's getting difficult to follow Tencent because they've got not even just their acquisitions or their investments, but including all the studios they're setting up. You would need you need to be a Tencent expert to follow half of it.
Basically. And the amount of fingers they have in so many pies, even just in terms of investments, they have a slice. They have a slice of Activision Blizzard. Yeah. Don't they? I think they do.
They're 5% or something, 4 or 5% in Activision Blizzard. And then they've got, their massive chunk of Epic Games. They've got, Riot, all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's big stuff. Now, as for David Kim, I'm a Starcraft player, so I will know, of course, that David Kim was a Grandmaster random player. You've got to be really good to be that good while playing random in Starcraft. He got hired at Blizzard, and he did a lot of balance work and things like that on StarCraft 2. And he was basically, I don't want to say he's like the ghost crawler of the StarCraft team, but he was one of those devs who was very visible to players.
Yeah, okay. That
so
makes sense. He
was doing that. Then he ended up moving to Diablo 4 vaguely recently. And do you know what's really, just really weird? Really weird, because we know that Shadowlands seems to have had a bit of a weird development cycle, and there's just WoW devs leaving. He was a senior game designer on World of Warcraft Shadowlands.
Oh yeah,
for barely any time. For barely any time. I could go and look at his LinkedIn or something, but whatever it was barely any amount of time, and then bam, he was out of Blizzard.
Yeah, I think he might not even have been the only one for that to have happened to kind of be shuffled around at the at the expense of their existing projects, shuffled around to other projects to get things out the door, and then seemingly have been either leaving themselves or been approached by people to go, if you want to leave, we could use you here.
Yeah, he was principal game designer World of Warcraft for 8 months. And then, of course, he leaves Blizzard. We think it's Lightspeed LA. It turns out, no. Turns out that David Kim is actually a part of a new company. And that new company is Uncapped Games. And here's what's cool. They're working in real-time strategy games, RTSs. And this now means we have got 2 ex-Blizzard RTS studios in Frost Giant and then this.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And it's also Jason Hughes is involved. Jason Hughes also worked on, I think, Diablo 4 and Diablo 3 and Hawken. If you remember that mech shooter Hawken, he worked on that too. And what's quite funny here is just going through as an interview. This was with Rebecca Valentine of IGN. One of the things covered there is, actually no, it was the Wowhead interview, that in this new company, Uncapped Games, everyone's Blizzard alumni. So this is a 100% ex-Blizzard Entertainment staffed company. And in terms of some of the details, right, they say they're making PC real-time strategy, and that they're now getting their shot of making that. They're located in Playa Vista, California. But I thought what I really wanted to go on here was the interview with Wowhead.
Yes.
Right. So this is an interesting one, because one of the things we've enjoyed, especially because we went through it in our other, on the live stream, but one of the things we've enjoyed is these Blizzard studios and their values. Because they always list these values that feel, similar to what people thought Blizzard was, but seemingly not what Blizzard actually is, based on, just sort of what you hear and, the investigative reporting and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's this brutal sense that when they leave Blizzard, they leave with almost like a scar that they're defending against.
Yeah,
like a Sam scar or something, where they're going, okay, well, we will go out of our way to not repeat these mistakes that we've felt. And I don't think anyone has said as much, but you can just look and you're like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you're going to bring one specific one up here. It's so brutal.
Reasoning over ego. And do you know what's really funny to me, actually? This is something every studio says. I even know another studio, but we can't really say, that has this, one of its company policies is no ego. The exact goddamn opposite is what goes on. It's basically the whims of one, which is quite funny. But in this case, I just think it's so interesting, reasoning over ego, with David Kim coming from the World of Warcraft development team, because honestly, it seems like it is sheer ego and an inability to accept feedback that has led the World of Warcraft team down the direction that it has. Yeah. And maybe, it's something about how, let's just say you're a WoW fan, you go to Blizzard to work on WoW, and of course Blizzard is more than happy to allow you to do that because you're there for passion, which means that you'll work long hours and accept very low salaries for the area. That's a literal Blizzard hiring policy they had for the longest time. So that type of person then goes to BlizzCon as a developer, and probably there's some of the old something, maybe not that exact, but you know what I mean, right? You go to Blizz, you're a rock star. I mean, you're a goddamn WoW developer. You made it from the community.
Yeah.
And you do just then sort of think, because there's a few times in Q&As, BlizzCon Q&As themselves, but also times with words are failing me. Times say interviews and stuff like that, where there's been clear points of players being real frustrated that they have just ignored for years in some cases, and lessons that should be really bloody easy to learn. And it's that sort of thing where it's I know there are WoW devs who get it, who know what the crack is, who know how that game should go, and do respect the community. But I then just wonder, do these people just lose every single internal fight? Because even, you'll remember this from the interviews, I think it was with Ian Hazzikostas, actually, the game director of World of Warcraft, but him always saying, oh yes, this was a topic of, big internal debate within the team. And it sort of seemed like we've had all of these player dramas and the community wanting seemingly something different to what the WoW devs are doing. And almost all the time, we hear, the subject of big internal debate. And I'm now just wondering, reasoning over ego, honesty and transparency for the game, which are the 3 team core values that David Kim and Jason Hayes. Is it Jason Hayes?
Jason Hughes?
Or Hughes even, yeah. Jason Hayes is another.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting to me, given how it feels being a World of Warcraft player, seeing the World of Warcraft development team seemingly just run on ego, think they know best, and then walk into every single landmine that the community's been pointing out for them months in advance. I just have to wonder, do some of these guys just get sick of this shit and decide, you know what? I could try to move up the corporate ladder in this company, or I actually have good ideas. I know what gaming communities want. Maybe I can be hot shit and go talk to some people, do some business development, and bam, I now have a studio.
Yeah.
The same with Ben Brode. It was just like the leader, some of the Hearthstone leadership were just like, all right, Blizzard, fuck that, we're just going to go do that instead. And then loads of the Hearthstone team left, from what I understand.
Yeah, there's a real fundamental shift in how Blizzard seems to work that's come from all of this, or how they've gotten on, which comes from a lot of the increase in venture capital and angel investors and stuff in and around that area, where they're significantly more happy to fund new ventures that will take a couple of years to get off the ground. But they seem to be working really heavily with these 3 things in particular for the game: honesty and transparency and reasoning over ego. Those are the 3 things that I would say, as an outsider, that Blizzard absolutely needs to learn as a development team. So if you've got members who are actually in the team, are experienced enough as game developers, are involved in these literal cultural juggernaut franchises, you look at that and go, well, if they're coming into an investor meeting going, here's the values we want our company to behold, and obviously they can't say this publicly, but these are the things we see competitors or where I just came from are completely lacking.
That's it.
So we have learned all the lessons of all of this failure. We know to avoid it, but we have also learned the lessons of how those games were great in the first place. I mean, you'd be throwing money at them hand over fist.
These are all guys who I am sure have been just sitting there looking at the company Slack channel internally, that Wojak of the happy face mask with the crying underneath it. That's probably been their experience, or, going and I don't know, they maybe go, there's some new feature the community doesn't, they think the community won't like it, and it's bam, here is your manna from heaven from the top of the team, go do. And it's is there even room for staff to push back? You do wonder, just given what it's like being clued into the WoW scene and following the game World of Warcraft. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
they know how to fuck it up.
Yeah, the answer's there in front of us, reasoning over ego. I mean, if you read into that in any capacity, I imagine Kim or someone else was typing that furiously into their own values document.
Yeah, it's also really funny. If you look at David's career, he does not hop about the place. This guy, David, if I look at his LinkedIn, which I am on right now, he was he was a senior game balancer for Relic, working on the Company of Heroes: Dawn of War.
Oh, yeah,
then
Relic.
Game designer on Starcraft 2 for 3 years. Senior game designer on Heart of the Swarm, the Starcraft 2 expansion, for 3 years. Senior game designer 2 for a year and a half. Lead multiplayer designer for 4 years. Then he becomes a lead systems designer for basically 4 years in Diablo 4. And then as soon as he hits World of Warcraft, he only lasts 8 months.
He's nope, I'm out of here. Goodbye.
This is something that you could probably have a think about. And I can't say anything for sure here because we literally don't know, right? But I guess it's, can you do some sort of, gut feeling informed, speculation, a bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sort of hard to say, really, isn't it? Yeah. But I do think that given the difference between the WoW teams, or the Blizzard teams, that there's probably something to read into there. Why does this guy just leave as soon as he hits the WoW team? The WoW team that we have seen hemorrhage really good staff lately. And then I actually think about Blizzard and the community. It's in the StarCraft team, there was that bit where we had there's a few metas, especially the end of HOTS or end of Wings of Liberty, but I had a really stale meta for too long. But if you're dealing with a live game like StarCraft 2, where game balance is super important, I mean, you need to have reasoning over ego. Because it doesn't matter what the theoretical potential of one unit is or something like that, the game balance and the meta is the way that it is. You have to respond to that as he was a lead multiplayer designer.
Yeah, you've got really good live multiplayer data from a game like StarCraft 2. So if you can apply like really good intuition to that,
Yeah.
and then model that around like the data, okay, well, like we literally know what unit compositions are winning in what fights. We know player profiles for what they're playing with. Then working with that like really gently is like delicate. You can't have like an idea that disagrees with the data when you're working on a live game like that.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, I actually think all the players are using this unit wrong. So I'm actually going to I'm going to force that through.
Unlike the WoW team, who are pretty good at doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's
Covenant population numbers in Shadowlands.
Yeah, because I think I'm looking at like, whenever you were going over his history there, I was just thinking, well, it clearly David was more than happy on StarCraft 2 because he stayed there for so long.
And then,
But
of course,
then
Team 1's killed by Blizzard.
Yeah, so StarCraft 2 wasn't like this was doing badly, or no, you're not doing a good enough job anymore. Go over that other team. It was Blizzard going, no, we're going to like basically sunset this project, run it in maintenance mode, remove support eventually. We'll move you on to something else. And then we know Diablo 4 had its incredibly troubled lifetime.
Yep.
Where God knows how much of David Kim's work was fine in context, but was thrown out for any number of reasons. Or, maybe it wasn't all that good because it was a different kind of game, but like, we don't know any of that. But like, the point is, Diablo 4 had a horrible lifetime. And eventually it seems to be coming out fine. It seems like it's going in a good direction. But like, especially moving to World of Warcraft after that, I could imagine it's like his true love was StarCraft 2, and then he's just like, everything else he's working on in Blizzard is like,
yeah,
this isn't StarCraft 2. And then
David Kim's returning to a real-time strategy game. I'm pretty happy about that.
So are the Frost Giant guys. I mean, God knows how many people in this, because they're all Blizzard alumni, God knows how many people like David Kim and Jason are bringing with them over that are people who could make the next StarCraft.
Yeah. There's, these are the names that we hear, and it's that sort of thing where the overall churn rate is, from what I understand, not like mega catastrophic for Blizzard as a whole, but from what I understand, there is a lot of their best people. So it's a brain drain thing that's going on.
That's going to be the problem if Blizzard don't want to make the games that these people really love making, and then Tencent are running around with loads of money, or Riot are running around with loads of money, or Dreamhaven are coming across with a big stack of cash. I mean, it's like the correct decision is barely even a decision. It's literally just, you're going to give me funding to make the game that I want to make and I'm really good at.
Plus,
what's the catch?
There's a big support network. Because, is David Kim going to know, like, Tim Morton and the people from Frost Giant? Yes, absolutely. Is David Kim, because he was a senior game designer in World of Warcraft, is he going to know? I mean, Chris Kalecki comes up as one example of, somebody who left, 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was a bunch of people who left the WoW team. Like, these guys are all going to know each other. And many of them are probably going to, know the Morheims, know these people, and know that people, and be in those VC networks. So, maybe for one group, they're like, oh yeah, go with Mike, or hey, Tencent have actually got a thing that would fit you. Because I guess the thing about Tencent is, I obviously have got humongous ethical qualms, given what Tencent presides over, some of the technologies, etc. I mean, obviously, everybody with a brain should. But from what I understand, for their Western gaming business, they're basically just acting like a big company who wants to get a return on investment. That's what I understand anyway.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to be coming over to the Western AAA gaming and treating it like how they treat Eastern AAA gaming, or even like Eastern mobile gaming.
Yeah,
it's going to be almost the more cold kind of, can you give us a decent return on this? You're completely free to do whatever you want. Because I imagine if they're in this for the long term, which they have to be if they're setting up like studios that are AAA now, they have to be expecting return in the future.
And there is another side to this too, which is getting a little bit off this story, but I think could maybe help explain some of Tencent's strategy. I do not remember specifically what game it was, but they did have a situation where I think Global Times, which is one of the CCP's newspapers, wrote an article about one of their games.
That was Arena of Valor, I think.
Arena of Valor, yeah. So whatever, like, it basically, the whole thing lost them loads of money because they were worried about and potentially facing regulatory pressure in the Chinese mainland market. So Tencent, probably wanting to act like a big corporation that wants to harvest up money, is going to try to diversify itself out of the Chinese market because they know that really at the whims of the party, because like you get a negative social score and all of that stuff if you played too much video games there. So they're probably thinking like, well, we can see what way the wind is blowing. We are a big corp. We want some money, so let's invest in these Western sort of projects. So I think that's what's going on, and I think that's basically where to leave this story. Our TLDR for everybody is that this is actually incredible news. It might not be perfect for, those of us who say really want World of Warcraft to go in a better direction, but then see developers who seem to get it or be smart, sort of capable people, or, have been at the team for a long time, leave at the same time that the community's having an uproar. You're kind of like, if the community thinks this game's going in the wrong track, like, is that why some of these devs have maybe fallen out of love with WoW and are now moving on to new endeavors? That's sad for us. But as somebody who loves Starcraft 2, I have had to realize that the next Starcraft 2 is not going to come from Blizzard, but it could come from some of these guys. That's exciting.
Yeah, if not Frost Giant, then Uncapped.
Yeah.
But I think one way to kind of frame this is just an analogy I've had in my head is like Blizzard have grown all of these incredible developers over time and let them cut their teeth on the best franchises and keep them alive and keep them good from their especially like StarCraft 2. Those expansions were great.
Yeah.
So these developers have done that, and now they're just Blizzard have opened the window, and now all these seeds are flying out to germinate and spread. All of this like actual knowledge on how to make good video games is now just free in a land of money.
Yep, and venture capital is the fertilizer and the water and the sunlight. It's the everything.
Yeah.
And this is not literally a VC situation, but I think that there is some VC stuff going on, and you know what I mean. There's people with money. They know games are doing good these days. So yeah, it's going to be good for us in the long run. It's going to sting for right now. I think that's basically it for today's story. Yeah. So if you guys enjoy, you can hit up the Patreon down below, where there are things, and over time there will be more and more things coming as we develop things, chart forward a new direction, and really get into that documentary content. It's going to be good. So have a great day, everyone. Catch you next time.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.